So one of the decision was that we should create a data center for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I'm very happy to tell you that we have got the space, the civil work has started, and all of the electronics and the networking equipments have been procured and brought to Ethiopia. The RailTel is the lead agency which is doing it. So we have Mr. Vishwakarma, who will be giving a detailed presentation on some of his ideas on what we are doing. We have also used the presence of RailTel to reach out to Artificial Intelligence Institute to tell that how we are running a large scale data center, particularly for Indian Railway, and also going into the private domain through various Indian firms, so how they can use our experience at pro bono basis. The second thing is that we have also taken the RailTel delegation to the African Union to tell that how they don't have to depend on external data sources, but they can have their own data so that the privacy of their documents are maintained. And since it is located at headquarters, it is easy and faster for them to retrieve the data. So those are the futuristic things on which we will be working. The second one was the visa waiver for the diplomatic passport holders. So within a month, maybe I think in January, we have implemented it. There was a decision to double the scholarship, long-term scholarship for undergrad, postgrad and PhD programs. So we have implemented it, and it has gone up from 65 to 131, and all these scholarships for this year has already been allotted to the students.
So by way of introduction, I work for the World Bank as already stated, but I want to also mention that I started my professional career as an officer of the Indian Revenue Service back in 1989. So I was the batch of 1989, worked for many years as a tax officer. I know many of you in the business community here have lots of issues with the Ethiopian tax administration. In India as well, business people always have issues with the tax administration. That's how I started. As a part of that journey, I got a chance to work as an officer on special duty to India's finance minister. This is 20 years ago. I was working as OSD to Finance Minister Chidambaram for 4.5 years. And then that's when I decided after the end of that tenure to leave and join the World Bank, and I've been with the World Bank since 2008. So again, it's been almost 18 years there. When I was posted to Ethiopia in 2023, around this time, and I was trying to figure out, I was joining here the economics and governance team, and I was trying to figure out what's the context, what's the macroeconomic context that I was walking into. And I found a very interesting write-up, a very interesting document, which I'm going to read two paragraphs, which I thought really described the Ethiopian macroeconomic context very well. So here, this is in quotes, so I'm starting with this statement, and then I'll later on tell you who and where the statement was actually made. So, it says, there exist large and persistent macroeconomic imbalances and low productivity of investment, in particular the poor rates of return on past investments. There has been an unsustainable increase in government expenditure, budgetary subsidies with questionable social and economic impact have been allowed to grow to an alarming extent.
At the supply chain management here, my journey started in India, where I had foundational experience in development sector, and it first brought me to Ethiopia from 2012 to 2018. So this is my second tenure in Ethiopia. This journey also took me to Bangladesh, where during the Rohingya crisis, I headed the supply chain for the Rohingya response. That was one of the biggest humanitarian response. And then from there, I went to Copenhagen, UNICEF supply chain headquarters, where I headed the policy division there for making policy on supply chain. Then from Denmark, I kind of, my journey took me to Afghanistan during the Taliban takeover time, so that was the most difficult time, and I headed the supply chain there. So that's just kind of, my brief kind of journey in the development sector where I have been. Yeah. So for, of course, many of you know the mandate and everything, but I just want to, for viewers, kind of, some new viewers, what is UNICEF mandate? I will be briefly kind of touching upon that. UNICEF is mandated by UN General Assembly to advocate for the protection of children's rights, help meet their basic needs and expand their opportunities to reach their full potential. That's the General Assembly mandate that UNICEF has. Then UNICEF is kind of, guided by the Convention on the Rights of the Child and works to establish child rights as international standard as behavior. UNICEF also prioritizes the most disadvantaged children and countries in greatest needs, and also UNICEF responds in emergencies and development contexts to protect the rights of the children and work with government and UN partners and humanitarian agencies. Basically, UNICEF's mandate is to protect the...
So a little bit about myself. I'm a former Indian Army soldier. I worked 17 years in the Indian Army in the Special Forces, and my tenures included basically Sri Lanka, Northeast, Kashmir, Seychelles, Malaysia, that. And then in 2003 I left and I joined the United Nations. And but I really want to, working in the UN, I think the Indian diaspora has made my life easy. I'll tell you why. Because wherever I've gone, in whichever country, Indian professors and teachers, the respect which countries have for them is amazing, and including in Ethiopia. The second category is Indian doctors. They have tremendous goodwill across. And of course, a lot of time we tend to forget, but Indian business person. They might be running a restaurant or something, but a lot of goodwill these people have. And we tend to forget a lot. Indian cinema has really made my life easy. And with that, I'll start, just give you an example. When I was in Afghanistan, my first job in the UN was to disarm, demobilize, and reintegrate former warlords and their soldiers under their command. So in Afghanistan, there were 540 warlords outside the control of the government in 2003. Though the UN was there, American forces was there, everyone was there, the NATO was there, but they realized that they cannot disarm. They can fight the Taliban, but they cannot disarm these warlords. So one of the UN had been trying a lot and no breakaway. And then I was sent to Gades. It's on the Pakistan border. And I was told, the task given to me was negotiate and bring this commander with the soldiers for this to come and disarm, give all the weapons. So not knowing anything, a meeting was organized, and I go to this so-called warlord. Huge beard with all AKs and everything there. Soldiers guarding me, and I'm going in. And I sit with him, and I introduce myself, and I'm saying I'm from, he asked me, where are you from? I said, I'm from India. So he speaks to me in Hindi a bit, because he's been watching Hindi movie. Then he tells me, is it okay if I call my 10-year-old daughter? Because she's very keen. So the 10-year-old daughter came, and she started speaking to me about Hindi movie stars. So everyone is listening, the UN, my staff, my colleagues, and here in Hindi I'm talking about Indian actors and actresses. And that broke the ice. I moved out of the meeting with a commitment. I had lunch with him and moved with a commitment that he will disarm, and we did disarm within 1 month. So that is how I think a lot of Indian things help us, which we do not realize. So now coming down to UNDP, that's the United Nations Development Program. So we have 3 core areas: governance, and second area in Ethiopia is inclusive economic transformation, and then climate and environment. But I think any organization we are in, it should be that We are there to support not only the people of the country, but also the government of the country. We have to see what do they need at that time and then be there to support. So out of our 3 core areas, which is what UNDP used to do, the war happened 2 years here, and the Pretoria Peace Agreement was signed. So what did we get involved into? We got involved into national dialogue. We, as UNDP, we got involved into the Pretoria Peace Agreement, the disarmament of combatants, mainly in Tigray, but across the country. Then we got involved into elections came up, we provided support for the elections.
So with this background, then I started my, professional career. My first assignment was, of course, back in India. I will not talk about much about it. I started as a forest officer for the semi-government organization in Andhra Pradesh in 1992, soon after my first degree. Then I started looking at a global level. Okay, in India we are well-to-do in agriculture, we have been doing a lot of things. What India can bring to Africa? That was kind of my desire and dream. That's how I landed in this continent, started bringing Indian technologies, because Indian agro-technologies are well known, which are quite easily adaptable with little modification in the country like Ethiopia, because most of our climate conditions are almost similar. Even the flora, the trees, crops, weeds, everything looks alike. So it was quite easy for me to bring some of the technologies. So I will be talking probably one by one on some of my experiences, what all I have contributed to the country, and currently in FAO, also in other countries, I will briefly touch on. So next slide, please. I think this already I spoke about it, but I wrote there 2 things, 2 awards. It's not to show that I got award, but from award what came out is very, very important. In 2007, I was one of the young scientists by the CIASA, Austria, and my supervisor from Germany asked me to work on what are those tree species which can fix more carbon for carbon sequestration. Today, that particular research work which I did almost now about 20 years ago, today we talk about carbon trading in the country. So that kind of research work which I did 20 years back, that laid a foundation for carbon trading today. Most countries are talking about carbon trading in these days. In 2023, from FAO, I got another award. It's called Elevate FAO Innovation Award on Moringa. Moringa is basically drumstick. What we in India, probably all 3 meals will have something from Moringa, right? In Ethiopia, it's like plenty of it is there, but it's not being utilized. They use probably like a medicinal plant. But my role was in this particular award was to see how best we can also feed to the animals apart from human consumption. When we did the research, undertook research, interesting part was milk protein content was increased from cows by feeding limited quantity of moringa. That was my another research which contributed. So now we are trying to bring in pelleting machines, giving to farmers and cooperative unions where they can utilize like commonly available resource to improving the livestock health, also milk quality.
I'm very proud to say that I'm an Indian doctor who has come with a helping hand to help children in Ethiopia. I've come with a team of 10 people. Dr. Prakash is a pediatric cardiologist. And we have Richard, a perfusionist, Tulsi, a scrub nurse, biomedical engineer Kalai, cath lab staff, Sangeeta and Surya, and 2 PICU nurses, Pavitra and Lindsay here. I'd like to thank you all for coming here to help me in this mission. I'm coming to Ethiopia for the 3rd time as a doctor to do heart surgeries in children. I come from a very humble place in Bangalore. As of all of you must be knowing an institute called Narayana Institute of Cardiac Sciences, which is founded by a very well-known cardiac surgeon, Dr. Devish Prasad Shetty. As you know, Indians think a lot and try to make things possible. And this is one of the examples I want to quote. He is also known as Harrison Ford of cardiac surgery. You know, as Mr. Rajul said, there is no point in reinventing the cycle. When he was talking about economic reforms, which happened in India, the similar situation is happening in healthcare. Way back when I was graduate as an MBBS doctor working in a mission hospital, what I could see as an Indian healthcare at that point of time was focusing more on communicable diseases like tuberculosis, leprosy, polio, cholera, diarrhea, infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate was the highest priority in India during those times. When any family in India wanted to undergo a cardiac surgery, was looking at US, UK or Russia. And India, being an old country, old nation, was growing, was developing. Healthcare also went to a similar situation. What I saw 1 year back when I came to Ethiopia was a similar situation here. All of them talk about communicable diseases. Once a country starts developing from that level onwards, when the economic reforms happen, when the healthcare system starts developing, when you control all communicable diseases, the most striking disaster you see is a non-communicable disease. And I would say heart and cardiovascular diseases are the number one killers in the entire world.
I came as a businessman to Ethiopia in 2007. Being a businessman is my profession, but being a humanitarian and a social worker is my passion. Besides my other responsibilities, I also serve as District International Service Chair of Rotary International, which works in 4 countries from here: Ethiopia, Kenya, South Sudan, and Eritrea. Over the years, I have realized that while businesses make or create economic value, service creates social value. Together they build trust. The foundation of every strong society and every strong multilateral relationship is the humanitarian service and working together. Today, I would like to share how the Indian diaspora can strengthen multilateral diplomacy through local action. Ordinary citizens build lasting friendship between nations. Why the Indian diaspora matters? The Indian diaspora is more than 35 million strong and present in almost every country. Indian entrepreneurs and professionals contribute enormously to their adopted countries. If we just look around us, how diversified we are. We have our Indian diaspora working in the UN. We are having the doctors sitting here. We are having agriculture scientists who is sitting here. We are having entrepreneurs who are sitting here. We have a teacher, Professor Rajendra, who is working for so many years in this world, in this country. So how diversified we are, and our presence is almost in every country. When we think of leaders such as Sundar Pichai, Satya Nadella, and Indra Nooyi, we see individuals who have enhanced India's reputation globally. At the same time, thousands of Indian doctors serving through the NHS in the UK and the healthcare systems across the world quietly save lives every day. And we are seeing the live example in this meeting. Their service becomes India's soft power. Understanding multilateral diplomacy. Multilateral diplomacy is no longer limited to governments. Businesses, universities, NGOs, philanthropic foundations, and diaspora organizations all play important roles. The Global Polio Eradication Initiative, Gavi, the Red Cross, and the Doctors Without Borders demonstrate how collaboration across countries can solve global challenges. Every successful partnership proves that cooperation is stronger than competition.
India has consistently supported a more representative and inclusive international order. Its engagement with the Global South, the African Union's membership of the G20, the BRICS, its development partnerships, digital public infrastructure initiatives, peacekeeping contribution and support for African representation in global institutions all form part of this approach. Indian professionals working in multilateral institutions can help translate these broad principles into practical outcomes. That's what I feel. They can bring knowledge of India's development experience while remaining responsive to African priorities and Ethiopian realities. Their task is not to present India as a model to be copied. With all due respect, it is to contribute experience, evidence, and technical capability to a shared search for workable solutions. Ethiopia's present economic transition provides a strong example of where such cooperation is needed. With due respect to Mr. Awasthi, the country is implementing major macroeconomic and structural reforms. These include changes to the foreign exchange system, modernization of monetary policy, revenue mobilization, reform of state-owned enterprises, and the opening of additional sectors to private and foreign investment. Recent assessments have noted stronger than expected economic growth. I'm talking about Ethiopia. Improved export performance, increased reserves and declining inflation, although debt pressures, the cost of living, access to finance, and social vulnerability remain serious concerns. The World Bank estimates that Ethiopia's economy grew by 9.2%, if I'm not mistaken, during the 2024-2025 fiscal year. But at the same time, Ethiopia remains a low-income country with substantial employment, poverty, and human development needs. This combination of rapid growth alongside considerable development challenges underlines the importance of ensuring that economic reform produces broad-based and socially sustainable outcomes. The business environment is also changing. Areas such as banking, finance, logistics, telecommunications, digital services, manufacturing, mining, tourism, and trade are attracting renewed interest. Ethiopia's 2025 Investment Forum presented 31 investment-ready projects valued at more than $13 billion across agriculture, energy, finance, manufacturing, mining, and transport. These developments create an important agenda for the Indian business community. Indian enterprises already have a presence in Ethiopia in pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, agriculture, textiles, plastics, education, consulting, and other services.
Now the Railtel international journey. Having developed significant expertise and implementing complex digital infrastructure projects across India, Railtel is now taking these capabilities to the international stages. Our international engagement includes projects in Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, Ethiopia, and other countries. Railtel has implemented electronic scoreboard at the historic Sabina Park Cricket Stadium in Jamaica and is associated with technology and capability building initiative in other countries. They demonstrate how Indian technology expertise and public sector capabilities can contribute to the development priorities of our international partners. Now the recent project is ongoing project, a data center that is implemented in Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ethiopia, and such Railtel has been entrusted by the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, with the establishment of a modern data center for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ethiopia, in Addis Ababa. Next. The proposed data center will incorporate modern infrastructure such as redundant cooling system, power system, precision cooling, fire detection and suppression systems, access control, surveillance, environmental monitoring, and other critical systems required for a secure and resilient digital environment. It represents that India's commitment to digital capacity building and technology partnership with Ethiopia. Now, Indian diaspora and multilateral diplomacy. The Indian diaspora has always played an important role in strengthening India's relationship across the world. Each Indian professionals, entrepreneurs, academic, doctors, engineers, or businessmen working abroad becomes in many ways an informal ambassador of the India. Our professionalism, integrity, cultural values, and contribution to the countries where we work collectively shape the perception of India. Here in Ethiopia, home to the African Union and one of the world's most important centers of multilateral diplomacy, the Indian community has a particularly played a meaningful role in Ethiopia. Now, technology can also become an important instrument of the diplomacy when India shares the experience in digital public infrastructure, telecom networks, data centers, cyber security, e-governance, healthcare, and capacity building. We create partnerships that go beyond traditional diplomacy. Organizations such as RailTel can serve as a bridge between India's technological capabilities and Africa's rapidly growing digital aspirations. Now, in a brief, India and Ethiopia shares a long-standing relationship built on friendship, mutual respect, and cooperation. As Ethiopia accelerates the digital transformation journey, I believe there are significant opportunities for India and Ethiopia to collaborate in areas such as digital infrastructure, data centers, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, cyber security, e-governance, education, healthcare, and smart infrastructure. RailTel is proud to contribute to this journey through the data center project for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ethiopia. I sincerely hope that this project will become another important milestone in strengthening the technological and strategic partnership between India and Ethiopia. Once again, I thank the Embassy of India in Addis Ababa for giving me this opportunity to share RailTel journey with this distinguished gathering. I also extend my best wishes to all members of the Indian diaspora who continue to contribute towards strengthening the friendship between India and Ethiopia. Together, through technology, cooperation, and shared values, we can build stronger bridges between India and Ethiopia. Thank you. Jai Hind.